Roster decisions are being made around the league, and the 49ers are going to have a very big decision concerning wide receiver that wears number 15. What is going to happen with Jauan Jennings, and will it happen during this show? What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast, part of the Pro Football Insiders. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera from the Library in the Game Clue. It's Vish Kumaran. What's up, Vish?
It's actually my dad's office, but I like that. Library from the Game Clue. That's a very, very good. Deep pull, deep pull.
Topical reference, I know, but actually over vacation, ended up playing Clue with my kids, so I guess it was top of mind.
Was it Colonel Mustard?
Yes, in a library with the candlestick. It's always Colonel.
It's always Colonel Mustard.
Can't trust that sneaky bastard.
Now,
Never
can.
We started a couple minutes late, and there were some technical glitches we had to work out. And the chat is already on me. Is there another Mariners game on? Rob's at the Mets game. Just because I missed the instant reaction because I took my son to a Mets game a couple weeks ago. You guys are jerks. Also hilarious, and I love you. Main topic of today's show, among many, is what's going to happen with Jauan Jennings, Vish. Rosters have to be cut down by 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, which, by the way, Jason and Steph are going to be live right at the deadline to react to everything that happens with an instant reaction show. So thank you for that. But they got to decide what they want to do with Jauan Jennings. Are they going to pay him? Yes or no? If they're not going to pay him and he doesn't want to play, do they put him on IR? What do they do with Jauan Jennings? This is, deadline spur action, and we got a deadline coming up, Vish.
Well, I think the one part of the whole Jauan Jennings situation that's the wild card is the severity of the calf injury, right? And that's the part that I don't know that you or I have the best grasp of. Like, is it a calf injury that's like week one, it's going to be close, where this is a guy maybe that won't play week one, won't play week two. So maybe you think of him being the designated to return IR guy, right? Or is the fact that the calf injury is somewhat tied to this contract negotiation and it's part of his quote unquote holding in, and maybe his calf is sore, but it's something you feel like he can recover from if his contract seems to work out? And that's the big question to me. If it's the latter situation, I think given where the 49ers are at wide receiver, you have to make something work out. And I don't think it's that expensive to make something work out. Tim Kawakami had a really nice article that you sent to me earlier today where he broke down the numbers, and it's kind of a win-win at this point for both sides, especially with where depth is at wide receiver for the 49ers. That's kind of where I stand. What do you think, Rob? Do you think there's any chance of the first situation first, where there's something with his calf that, like, hey, he could be out? And then if it's not, where do you stand?
I'm sure his calf is injured. I'm sure I am not going to say that he could have practiced. I have no idea, but he certainly has every incentive not to practice if he wants more money, especially with the 49ers wide receiver situation as it is. But in the Kawakami article, Vish, it literally says, and I have it highlighted on the screen, there is growing frustration on both sides as Jennings continues to miss practice with a calf injury, and 49ers management continues to show little interest in restructuring his contract and giving him a big pay raise. If it's just he's too injured to play, I don't know that there would be growing frustration. Why would the frustration be growing, right? So that little line in there from Tim makes me think that it's probably not 100%, but I'm sure he would try at least to gut through it if he had the security and the money that he wanted to have.
Yeah, Rob, if it was any other injury, I think I would be ready to 100% plunge to that conclusion with you. This is the one where, like, even if it's not quote unquote that injured, if it doesn't feel right, it's really hard for players to continue playing and stuff because it can get into your head. And so I want to give him that one benefit of doubt despite the 49ers growing in frustration, because we've seen teams push players to play oftentimes based on what they read in the medical prognosis without understanding what the player feels ultimately inside of their body. And so I want to give Jauan Jennings that one benefit of doubt, but I do agree with you. It seems like the 49ers are like, hello, like, let's go. Like, Well, we don't need to worry about this. This is our last year with you. This is your last year with us. Just come out here, play, go earn a big contract somewhere else. We need you. We're going to throw you the ball. It feels like they're trying to just create that sort of situation for him.
And there's another part of this that Tim pointed out in the column, which is Jauan Jennings has some incentives in his deal. If he were to go on injured reserve, say, and miss the first 4 games, he probably wouldn't hit those incentives. So the incentives, in case you're wondering, are playing 50% of the offensive snaps, catching 60 passes, gaining 600 receiving yards, and scoring six touchdowns. Now, he hit all of those last year, but if he misses 4 games, it's going to be a lot more difficult, especially if, and this is a big if, I realize, but the 49ers receivers get healthier as the year comes along. Brandon Ayuk comes back. Maybe Jordan Watkins comes back. Ricky Pearsall obviously continues to play. Then all of a sudden, Jauan Jennings is not seeing the targets that he saw last year. And those incentives become far less likely. And that's money out of Jauan's pocket.
Right. And there's a bigger variable to it. I'm going to take the incentives even further. Look, Jauan Jennings is an excellent player in the sense of he was an undrafted free agent who's carved a niche role in the NFL, and he's very good at it. He's a terrific blocker. He catches the hell out of the ball. He's great running after the catch. He creates separation. But here's the thing. Jauan Jennings isn't those 0.01% of NFL players whose talent and skill set is irreplaceable in an offense. And if Jauan Jennings misses 4 weeks, even though he does all of those things fantastic, there are players on this team currently, like a Russell Gage, for example, who's been a good player in other spots. And he could take Jauan Jennings' role, and Shanahan could say, Russell Gage is doing what you do, Jauan. We're not going to give you your spot back. And now if you miss 4 games and you're not getting your spot back, Jauan Jennings has really hurt himself, not just with money this year based on those incentives, but in the long run when he's due to probably get a very nice payday this offseason if he didn't sign that extension in the middle of last year. Because of how he played last year, he would have gotten a big deal in the market this season, a mid-level receiver deal. And so that extension last year has basically made him have to prove it again in this same contract circumstance. And being hurt hurts him. Being hurt hurts him. I hate that sentence. But being hurt hurts him in the sense of if he misses any amount of time, his role or his ability to perform his role isn't so irreplaceable that another veteran player can't have some semblance of success and be given that opportunity. And that's the other part of it that's kind of pushing him into a corner. And it's pretty unfair because this is his shot.
Demarcus Robinson, Russell Gage, hell, maybe even Robbie Chosen, who knows? There's another twist to this story, Vish, and that came out today with the news that Amari Cooper is back with the Raiders. Diana Rossini on the tweet says at the bottom, Cooper had interest from multiple teams, including the 49ers, but elects to sign with Las Vegas. Number one, the only team she named out of those multiple teams were the 49ers. I don't think that is an accident. I think that is the 49ers leaking that to Diana Rossini as a message to Jauan Jennings. Hey, dude, we're not that worried about you. We've got, we're out there looking for other guys. We'll pick up another guy off the roster. Like, you are not going to hold us up, okay? And I think that is the exact right attitude for the 49ers to have.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I hate taking that stance because it sounds like you're taking an anti-stance against a player that I really like. Like Jauan Jennings stands for everything NFL players should dream of when they build their career. He wasn't the first overall pick. He wasn't the most talented guy. And he's built himself like a really, really solid career. He's a very good NFL football player. But unfortunately, the only people that can hold out and feel irreplaceable is like the 0.001 percenters. It's Micah Parsons, right? That nobody in Dallas is going to replace Micah Parsons, regardless of if a guy gets 10 sacks. He's not replacing Micah Parsons. Unfortunately for Jauan Jennings, as good as he is, Russell Gage can definitely replace Jauan Jennings in this offense. And he might be a different skill set. He might do it a different way. But Shanahan could come to Jennings week 4, even if he's back, and be like, look, Russell Gage is playing his ass off. You're our 5th receiver now. Sorry, dude.
Yep. And I think that's what Jauan knew. That's why he tried to make a push. But the 49ers, combined with, I think, Jed York's unwillingness to pay, I think that's part of it too. Jed's like, hey, we paid you last year. Like, we just did this last year. So Go
The
ahead.
extension he signed last year was the questionable deal. I think we all were like at the time, like, oh, I thought he would kind of get money. He was finally out of the restricted free agent circuit after being cut, or because he was drafted and then cut. So then he was a practice squad guy, which put him through the whole restricted free agent thing. He finally got through it. It was his first time to get money, and then he signs an extension right as his stock was picking up, right? He had played 2 good games, and the next thing you know, the 49ers have extended Jauan Jennings, and it was very reasonably priced, especially for a guy that was playing the best football of his career. And you're like, oh, what a great move. Well, now he's looking at it this offseason, and he's like, I don't know, just based on, and this is just the thing I said about Roll, right? There's no guarantee as good a player of Jennings is. Jennings can do all the things he did last year and just not get the same production as last year. And
Yes.
that's because they will throw the ball to Pearsall. They will throw the ball to Kittle first. They will throw the ball to 4 different guys on this offense before they throw the ball to Jennings. And Jennings can be the great blocker that he is, the third down weapon that he is, the great yards after the catch guy that he is, and separate the way he does, and still not guarantee himself the opportunities to be able to put up those numbers. And he saw himself put up those numbers, and he was like, oh, I could have made 10 to $12 million. Like Alan Lazard, for example, 2, 3 years ago, the Jets gave him a second receiver deal. Jauan Jennings is a better player than Alan Lazard. He could get that sort of deal. Gabe Davis, right? Jacksonville paid him. Jauan Jennings is better than Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis stinks. Okay. He could have gotten that sort of deal. So that's what's unfortunate for him, because if he doesn't recreate that season, like those type of receivers, they get paid when they're hot. And if he's not hot again this year, all of a sudden he lost the opportunity to make real life generational changing money. And it sucks.
It's not ideal. Say that if you're Jauan Jennings. But this is, look, Jennings has to do what's best for himself. The Niners have to do what's best for themselves. And unfortunately, the system is set up to where the team has all the power. And by the way, Kendrick Bourne gets cut by the Patriots. The Niners could scoop him up and say, see you next year, Jauan. Thanks for everything. We'll put you on IR. Your season could be done. And we're going to.
That sucks.
Yeah, they could do it, though. If they
because
put
the
him
designated to return only has 2 players.
So yeah, it's a little complicated. But if you put somebody on IR as part of the 53-man roster cuts, you only have 2 slots that are designated to return. Kevin Givens is probably going to get one of those. Jacob Cowing, who's out for 6 weeks, he's a candidate for one of those, possibly. Certainly younger than Jauan Jennings. If they put Jauan Jennings on the active roster, then quickly thereafter put him on IR, they could designate him to return that way. Or they could just put him on IR and end the
But then
season.
they have to risk exposing some player they might have originally wanted to put on their 53 to the whole waiver market and all of that.
Right. That's the key, is if you keep him on the active roster before the cut down, then maybe that costs you Sebastian Valdez, or does it cost you, insert Drew Moss, player that you might want, whoever your preseason hero happens to be. That's why I always say making a roster is like a Rubik's Cube. Every move you make affects some other part of the roster, some other part of the Rubik's Cube. So this Jauan Jennings thing, like, we're going to have an answer very shortly. That's why I said in the tease for YouTube, it could happen while we're on the air.
I think the frustration, honestly, for the 49ers, Rob, is 2 things. 1, I don't think they wanted to do this again this offseason. And 2, no disrespect intended. He's an awesome football player. But they're like, why the hell are we doing this with Jauan freaking Jennings? That's the second part to this.
Yes.
Like, 1, we're wrapped into this again. And 2, it's not with Trent Williams. It's not with Christian McCaffrey. It's with Jauan Jennings. And that's pissing them off.
Well, and that's why I think they're not doing it, Vish. They're just like, no, we're not paying you. And that's it. And that's what they should do. This is not a stop the presses, hold everything player. This isn't Bosa or Trent or McCaffrey or Ayuk. It's not. And they know that, and they've recognized that. And I don't think that this is going to be a thing for another day, Vish. And then after that, it's going to be done. And the season's going to
we'll know what it is. Either he's going to be back. Oh, Jauan Jennings is back practicing. His calf seems to be recovered, or he's rehabbing on the side field, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, Jauan Jennings is on IR. Like, well, no, it's done. You're right.
Now, I don't know this part of it, which is Bo Adams said, I heard the Niners are like 3rd on the waiver wire. I think they're 11th, but I'm not sure, because I think it goes by draft. It goes by your record. which the Niners had the 11th pick in the first
Yeah,
round.
I always thought it went by draft.
So I think they're 11th, but that's relatively high on the totem pole there. So that, that also enters into it, right? That affects their ability to get a player possibly like a Kendrick Bourne or somebody like that. So there's
And
a lot of
this
moves.
year, Rob, I was going to say this year they will be more active on it. They might have
They have
players
to be
fringe on other teams that they like because the fringe of their roster is very bare.
fringy.
Yeah, fringy. There's a lot of fringe guys on this team.
Yes. So there's a lot of moving parts to this thing. It's interesting. It's going to be kind of fun, I think, to watch John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have to navigate this whole thing. But I don't, and I also don't think, like, if you're saying, well, they got to do something because it's Jauan Jennings, it's like, since when is Jauan Jennings the cavalry? Like, all of a sudden, he's going to settle down all your concerns at wide receiver? Like, no. So that's why I don't think it's as big a deal to the Niners or to us, you and I at least, as an Ayuk was or a Bosa or something like that.
So the number one biggest thing with their receiver room this year is Ricky Pearsall. Like that's the one we got to worry about. It's not Jauan Jennings, it's Ricky Pearsall. He's going to play on the outside. Without Brandon Ayuk, he's going to be the X receiver a lot of times. He's going to also be playing the Deebo Samuel role, so he's going to line up everywhere in this offense, and they're going to target him. He's going to be the featured guy. And so that's the guy you have to look out for. Everybody else is going to play a role around Ricky Pearsall. And frankly, when I look at playing a role around Ricky Pearsall, if Ricky Pearsall is that good, Russell Gage, I've said it 3 times on this show. I'm hoping one of these weeks he actually does something. He's a good player. He can play that role. Robbie Chosen, he's played, it looks like he's got focused and he's locked in. He looks like the best of Robbie Chosen right now. And so he's a guy that even whether he makes the 53 or the practice squad, he can be an effective player for this team. And then the third guy is when he comes back from the suspension, Demarcus Robinson's a good player. He blocks,
Yes,
he runs good routes, he catches the football. He's just a good football player. He can definitely complement a good Ricky Pearsall. And so like, yeah, they would benefit from having Jennings. Nobody says Jennings isn't a good player. Jennings is a good player, but he's not a game changer in the sense of he's going to make or break this offense, like you said. That will be Pearsall. Pearsall is the one that's going to make or break this offense. Everybody else just needs to play a role around him, and they have these other role players that are available. And unfortunately, Jennings would be the best of the quote-unquote role players, but he is still a quote-unquote role player.
exactly. I could not have said it better myself. And you actually sort of transitioned us to our next point, which way to go, you. I see what subtle moves you did there. But if we zoom out for a second and just take a bigger picture look at this team, because the preseason's over now. We could say that officially. Also, thank you for having the loudest drink possible in the history
Sorry.
of podcasting.
No, it's because for the first time, my mic is my AirPods. I should have been more cognizant because Mike picked up. That's on me.
Vish has like a Gatorade squeeze bottle like he's playing in the NFL. That's how
That's
big.
right. That's right. That's right. That's how the NFL players and the many players and coaches who are tuning into our podcast know that we're legit because we're taking the same steps in our off time that they do.
Right. That's the effort that we put into this pro. It's just like a effort that a player puts into a game. Frisbee Life on Twitch says that's called commitment. Yeah,
exactly.
But if we zoom out now at the end of the preseason, we can take a step back and just ask a very simple question. You brought it up when we talked earlier on the phone. Do you feel better about this team after the preseason, or do you feel worse about this team after the preseason than you felt before the preseason began? It was your idea, it was your question, so I'll let you go first, Fish.
Yeah, I actually feel a little worse, Rob. And I feel a little worse based on how I feel like they feel about their team, if that makes sense. Going through this offseason and going through this training camp, I think a lot of us looked at, well, they're going to get a lot of their star players healthy. These star players are proven excellent players. Like Christian McCaffrey is a Hall of Famer. Trent Williams is a Hall of Famer. Nick Bosa's Hall of Fame trajectory. Fred Warner, George Kittle, like we can go down the list. And their schedule is the easiest schedule in the NFL. And we combine those two things, and it's like, oh, they were injured and pretty good last year. They should have made the playoffs, or they should have at least had closer to a winning record or possibly a winning record. They lost a lot of winnable games. Yep. And so I was just reapplying that and thinking, yeah, they should be better. But one, I think depth on this team is actually a lot more questionable than I thought coming in. I think that this team is suffering from the fact that they took last year to do this whole band-aid when people said, let's rip it up then and develop guys. And so now you're in this unique spot where you have a lot of young players who are showing phenomenal talent. Like Nick Martin looks like a talent, right? Alfred Collins, he's got size and athletic skills, which is what you saw on paper. Michael Williams has real talent. Upton Stout has real talent. Marcus Siegel has real talent. But when you have these young, talented guys, they go through a growing period where they have to play. Unfortunately, the 49ers are caught in between where all these veterans are coming back and they're not going to be able to go through this quote unquote growing period. Like, I think this would be a great year for Nick Martin, for example, to play 17 games. And I think if the 49ers were the 2018 49ers, Nick Martin would play 17 games just like Fred Warner did as a rookie, especially with how he played in preseason. But when you have to line him up next to Fred Warner, you're not going to do that. You're going to go with D. Winters, who had a very solid camp and looks like a good player. But when you look at the talent of Martin versus Winters, there's a little bit more to Martin than there is to Winters. Like next year, if Martin plays 17 this year and builds off of this offseason, like Martin and Warner might be one of the better duos in the NFL. It might be Warner and Greenlaw all over again. And that's where I feel like they're caught somewhat in between. I think that what they should have done last year was rebuild. I've said that so many, or retool. I've said that so many times. We don't need to go there. But now when I look at them this year, I do feel like, especially after the injuries they've gone through, they've been hard, right? Like receiver has just been totally decimated. Offensive line has been pretty banged up. Defensive line has had to handle a couple of injuries. Corner has also been completely decimated this offseason for them in terms of guys playing in camp. Nothing long term, at least at corner. And so when you look at all of those positions, I do feel like they're like, oh crap, like, hey, we have like all of these veteran players who are going to execute at this level. And then we have all these young, talented players who need to grow on the fly. And they are kind of looking at it like, we're not sure about this season. I don't feel like they have the confidence they had, for example, in other seasons coming in with Christian McCaffrey. And I feel like that's because they look at parts of this roster and they say, yeah, they need to grow. I don't know if they'll be as assignment sound. That touched a lot of areas, my bad.
It did.
Not very focused.
Everything you said is 100% true. And it's not the first time we've seen a 49ers team with players that need to take time to develop versus a core of veteran players who are ready to win now, right? That was the entire crux of the Trey Lance issue. It was exactly why they had no patience with him. They are in sort of a similar spot. It's really hard to tell a team with all the still great veteran players that they have, hey, we're not really competing for a championship. Like, sorry, this is a transition year. It's really hard to look Trent Williams in the face and say that, and Kittle and McCaffrey and Bosa and Warner. So I get all of that, but I sort of disagree with you or your overarching point. I think that I'm a little more optimistic about the 49ers than I was coming into the preseason. I don't think I really grasped how much Robert Saleh is going to help. And I know it was the preseason and stuff, Fish. I think he's going to make a massive difference. And we talk about all those games that they lost that they should have won. How many times did they need a stop from their defense?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
One guy to make a one play on a third down or a fourth down, and they never did it. And I think, first of all, I think the defense is going to be better this year than last year, just better, period. But also, I think Saleh can help them out in some of those situations with the scheme, which they did not have with Vanilla Milquetoast Sorensen coordinating the defense last year. I'm sorry. So I feel way more optimistic about that. With the play of Upton Stout and in a very, smaller capacity, Chase Lucas, I feel like the corner depth is better than I thought it was going to be. Now, we got to see those guys, obviously. We haven't seen Upton Stout in an actual game, so that's the real thing. But if it's as good as we think it might be, that's definitely a spot where I feel more optimistic than I did before the preseason.
Can I call one thing on that, though?
Yes.
I think even when I look at Upton Stout and they're like, oh, he's so impressive as a rookie, there's a lot put on that nickel position in the NFL, especially in the run game. There's a lot put on the nickel position. And they used to put a lot on K'Wan Williams, for example. Like they used to have him fit the B-gap bubble. And that's a really hard thing for linebackers to do. And K'Wan Williams at 5'8", 190 used to stick his shoulder in there and tackle Zeke Elliott in the hole. Like it was a pretty spectacular thing. It's a very underrated thing. And so even when I project a guy like Upton Stout to be a good player, it's a Nick Martin question for me, Rob, at that position, because that position there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of assignment changes. There's a lot of things. Oh, the strength of the offense moves here. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm the extra linebacker in the box. There's a lot of things that happen at that position mentally for the guy to play fast. And so I think that's a really hard position to say, okay, my rookie is going to come in I think my rookie can be a good player, but my rookie might take 9 weeks of playing nickel and starting and maybe having a few mistakes to become that really good player.
There will be growing pains for sure, but maybe that might be lessened by the fact that the offense that he's seeing every day in practice has more shifts and motions than anybody. So he's getting a crash course in that. And I admit that's probably me looking through the rose-colored glasses, but I'm hoping maybe that could cut down on some of the growing pains. Brisbee Life on Twitch says, I'm hopeful for Stout, but it's hard for me to count on him when I haven't seen him play a snap. Same thing for Michael Williams. I need to see some snaps first. 100%. Totally legitimately fair. But the addition of Saleh with some better players and a schedule that is much weaker than last year. Say what you want. Is it going to be easy? Is it not going to be easy? It's got to be weaker than last year. I think that combination makes me more optimistic for the defense. So I'm definitely more optimistic there. I'm super excited about Ricky Pearsall, although I was excited about Ricky Pearsall last year when he finally got to play and get on the field. I don't know, Vish. Maybe it's just the hope that always comes on August 25th, right? Maybe that's all this is. But I can't help how I feel, and I do feel more optimistic about them than I did.
And maybe I started off at a point of more optimism than you, and we're kind of both evening out. That could be the case here. I guess the way I'm seeing this team is I feel like the first part of the season is going to be bumpy. I think there's a really good shot that this is a really good team in the second half of the season, especially this defense. Like, I think this defense has a chance, especially if these rookies and these young players develop really fast. Like, if Michael Williams, 4 or 5 games into the season is like really feeling it and he's starting to look the way Jared Verse, for example, look for the Rams, that could change their defense. If Alfred Collins, for example, maybe gets on the field, though that seems unlikely, he maybe gets a groove going. That could change their defense. So I do think there'll be a good second half of the league or second half of the year team. Like, I think they have a chance to figure it out. But I think there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of young players, not a lot of practice time or continuity for this team over the course of this preseason and offseason. And Rob, this team in preseason, compared to years past when we've been confident they've been a good team, there's a lot of depth issues in certain positions. Like, they do not look good in terms of certain second units. Like, for example, they cut those two quarterbacks. Holy cow. The fact that we had to watch 3 preseason games of that was, please give us our time back. Running back, like, now they got Brian Robinson, but up till that point, it looked quite questionable in terms of their depth. And it seems to be a Reuben Foster situation with Garendo, where every game he seems to pick up something or get banged up, which I think is the case of his run style, Rob. I think he runs high and he gets hit running high, and that leads to lower extremity injuries and stuff like that. I'm projecting a lot of NFL players, specifically running backs, get hurt a lot, but I'm trying to correlate something here. And so, yeah, it's a steeper road for them, is what I'm trying to say at the beginning of the year, because they've had such an off season of battling this and that and this.
And another reason they might be better at the end of the year is they're playing a lot at home. Remember, 5 out of the first 8 games the Niners have are on the road this year. So there's going to be, not only are these rookies going to have to adjust, they're going to have to play in some harsh environments, although one of those games is a Rams game, which is basically a home game for the 49ers. So maybe it's 4 out of the first 8 if you want to count Levi's South as a home game. But you see my point. At the end of the year, they're going to have more experience than they've ever had, and they're going to be in front of the home crowd. That could be a boon too. So what you're saying about them being a better team and a better defense at the end of the year definitely could ring true. The quarterback thing is right, by the way. Those two guys were terrible.
Dude, go for it.
Well, no, what you said about Garendo, the fact that the 49ers traded for Brian Robinson, and before the deal was even technically official, because it wasn't official on game day, Kyle Shanahan got up to the podium and said, he's our backup running back. What
He's
does
just
that
oh, I think first of all, Robinson is just a good player. Like Robinson could start in the NFL.
right? But what does it say about the other running backs they had on the roster that they went
Oh
out?
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, right. Obvious, yeah. The fact that they were so aggressive, even getting such a good deal as they did with Washington playing the contract, like you don't get a player that's going to come in and be the guaranteed number 2 guy in your depth chart at this point in the season, unless you're like, yeah, this is not working out for us. Like we don't have anything behind Christian McCaffrey, and in fact, I think Robinson is actually the first back that they've added to this backfield that plays a role with Christian McCaffrey to me. Like I feel like some of the other backs in this roster, like you put Garendo, they want Garendo to almost do the things Christian McCaffrey was doing in this offense rather than Garendo complementing McCaffrey's skill set in a completely different way. I think Robinson's bruising style and size and just being a bigger guy will be a nice complement at certain points in the game where, hey, we don't need to rely on McCaffrey because this guy runs just as hard as McCaffrey and he's 15 pounds bigger.
I hope that's the case. I hope they let him compliment Christian McCaffrey because we all know we need Christian McCaffrey healthy. So let him compliment him and give him some rest and let Brian Robinson take some of those hits. And Bruce says if Robinson can save Christian McCaffrey 5 hits a game, it's a great trade. And Sean Turner points out the press conference from Brian Robinson today, where he's basically like, he literally said the phrase plug and play. He said, I've been running the ball my whole life. Whatever they want me to do, I do. I'm ready to do it.
He's on house money, dude. He knows this is like a total like 1 year. The team has no financial downside to this, and he's on a total prove it year.
Get to be in San Francisco. You get to be with Kyle Shanahan. And not only that, but like you're in Kyle Shanahan's system, right? Which is run by how many teams around the league. So Brian Robinson's going to be like, this is great for me because I'm auditioning for everybody else that runs this system too.
Well, he's going to have to get through Bobby Turner school. And that will be the big key because I think there's also a variable to this. Can we tie this all to Jordan Mason? Because in a way, Brian Robinson ties to Jordan Mason, right? And there is a tie with the picks. There's a point with Jordan Mason that I don't think anyone has hit this offseason. I want to hit it. I don't think the 49ers issue with Jordan Mason and the reason they traded him had anything to do with the way he ran the football. I think it had everything to do with his shape. They had issues with his shape before last year. And his big transformation before last year is he came ready to be the backup running back. And guess what? Christian McCaffrey got hurt, and 2 weeks into the season, this guy was not ready to go anymore because he had worn himself out because he was ready to only be the backup running back. He didn't come ready to be the starter. And if we know anything about Kyle Shanahan, if there's one thing that drives him nuts, and if there's one thing he goes crazy for, it's the Trent Taylor. The guy that's 5'8", 170, doing everything he can to play on Sunday, even though he's got no physical shot. And then you have a guy like Jordan Mason, who's a specimen. He can totally compete on Sundays. He's delivering contact on Sundays. And you can't rely on the guy through the year, even though you need him because he didn't come ready to be the starter. I think that's what peeved him off. I think Bobby Turner also got peeved off with that whole thing. There were things with Jordan Mason I kept saying even earlier through his tenure with the 49ers on why he wasn't. Why isn't this guy getting the ball? Well, he's not assignment sound. Why isn't this guy getting the ball? Well, he's not in shape. Like, these were real things with him. And they didn't want to rely on that. They didn't want to come into this year, and it's 2 good games with Jordan Mason, and by the third one, he can't practice the whole week just because you ran him 20 times the week before and 20 times the week after. It doesn't work like that in the NFL for the 49ers, and that's the harsh truth with the Jordan Mason conversation. It had nothing to do with his talent. They would have traded him even if there were no running backs left because they didn't want to deal with that situation again, and I think they're much happier with Brian Robinson for that reason.
The comment that he gave, which is, how does Christian McCaffrey do this? It's like, holy crap. Like you just basically admitted that you're not up for this. And maybe he was like, hey, I'm behind Christian McCaffrey. I only get 4 plays a game. I don't need to be in the greatest of shape. But as we all saw, that changed very, very quickly. And we should put this tweet up from Danny G, who sort of lays it out, right? They traded Jordan Mason for a draft pick, which ended up being Marquise Siegel, who may, I stress may, be something. They get a 6th round pick next year. Then they traded a 6th-round pick to get Brian Robinson Jr. So would you rather have Jordan Mason or would you rather have Brian Robinson and Marquise Siegel? I know who I'd rather have, and it ain't Jordan Mason.
I think Mason has more long-term talent to be a bell cow than Brian Robinson. But if you were in the Jordan Mason business for 3 years and you got rid of him right as you felt like he showed something in the NFL, what does that mean, Rob? It had nothing to do with his talent. It means you don't want to trust the fact that like we tried this guy's talent for 3 years. I don't think he's going to maximize it. Whereas we'll bring in a true professional like Brian Robinson, and that's your answer. But I do think like if we're talking potential for potential on running backs, like Mason's got a bit more juice to him, and Brian Robinson's a good player.
I would rather have Brian Robinson and Marquise Siegel. I'm excited about Marquise Siegel. Maybe not, the greatest in coverage at this point in time, but holy crap, can he run and tackle and chase and hit? I was very excited watching him in the preseason.
And he plays with confidence.
He's going to be a starter week 1. He's one of the starting safeties, is he not?
Well, Jair Brown is the other guy in this conversation, Rob.
It'll be Pinnock and Siegel, you think, right?
I think so. I don't actually have as much confidence in saying that this year. Usually I feel like I have a good feel for the safety position with the 49ers. This year I don't feel like I have a good feel for it because Siegel is a rookie, and putting a rookie out there week 1, week 2 as a safety is a pretty hard thing. Robert Saleh, if you remember, he put Lorenzo James, undrafted Lorenzo James, in that situation way back when in 2017. It's a tough thing to do for a safety. And so I don't know if they'll stick with Brown because he's played 2 years in the system, that sort of thing. But I think Brown, like in all honesty, Rob, I've always questioned his ability to play with the 49ers, but I did like Brown when he came out of Penn State. I think Brown could use a change of scenery, a different scheme. Because I thought this offseason was his chance to turn it around with Salah, and it looks like he's still kind of in the same headspace that he was in. And maybe he's got some more juice. Maybe it's just coming to California from Penn State, those sorts of things for him. I don't know.
Maybe he could, look better in a different system, but I don't know. I get the impression I would not be shocked to see Jair Brown not on this team this year. To me, he seems like maybe does a team possibly give up like a late pick 2 years from now to get Jair Brown? Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he's no longer on the team. Just seems like it's snowballed and it's kind of going in the wrong direction for him, which everything we hear about him off the field is that he's a tremendous kid, but maybe it just didn't work out here.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? There's some things with his tackling that's to me just questionable in terms of how his body ends up in the angle that he ends up. Like the play versus Ashton G&T when he's the last guy and he makes the tackle on G&T, but he's tackling G&T from behind him. And he's the last guy, and they're meeting at like 12 yards. And it's a very weird way that his body ends up and he's like taking him down. I don't know. I also like, to be fair, and I've been one of the people that's been the harshest critics of Jair Brown. Like, I think people have been maybe a little bit harder than on him this offseason. There hasn't been anything glaringly awful to me. It's been kind of just so. And I think maybe the fact that it was bad the first 2 years makes so not good enough. I also, to be fair, I'm not watching the film of the preseason the way I used to be and all of that. So maybe Jair Brown is totally kicking butt and I'm totally misinformed. So
spoiler alert, he is not. Let me just say that.
Rob says no way.
Not. Vish, we're 40 minutes in and we haven't gotten to the other decision that the 49ers have seemingly already made. And that, of course, is Jake Moody, who, despite missing 10 kicks last year, who, despite losing a preseason kicking competition to Greg Joseph, who, despite missing a field goal and an extra point and kicking a kickoff so far out of bounds that hit a police officer that was 10 yards off the sideline, appears to have his spot ironclad locked up going into week 1. And I do not understand it, Vish. This is going to cost the 49ers at least one game this season.
So I have one problem with this first and foremost, and that's that I don't fully buy that this team believes in him. Like the way they talk about him after the game and all of it is like Shanahan is almost like, well, I got to keep saying things positive so that he believes in. Hopefully, maybe he turns into a good kicker. That's what it sounds like. It doesn't sound like Shanahan. Does it feel to you that Shanahan's like, oh, yeah, we got Jake Moody. I could kick a field goal anytime? Hell no. It sounds like he's like, I've seen Jake kick great. Jake kicked better than anybody I'd ever seen in the last game. I'm excited for Jake. Jake is so talented. Jake is going to be good. It's almost like he's trying to will it into existence. So that's problem number one I have. Like, why are you going to this season with this anxiety? Like, why are you choosing to make this move? Go for it.
Listen to Kyle. Decide for yourself.
Kind of the up and down nature of how Jake has been.
I don't know. I thought he had one of the best games I've ever seen a guy have last week. I know he missed extra point today, which definitely doesn't make us happy, but we'll see how it goes in the year. I know he's a talented kicker. I know he's done some really good things for us. He had a rough last 7 games last year, but I think he's had a real good offseason and a real good preseason also.
You see the parts of real Kyle come out in moments. He had a rough real 7 games last year. I know he missed the extra point, and then it's almost like, wait, Kyle, your positivity life coach told you have to say these things. He's as talented as anybody I've seen. He kicked better than anybody I'd ever seen in the last game.
Kicker update. How was there no pushback on that, Bish? How was there no pushback? Kyle, you say he's had a good preseason, but he's missed a kick and an extra point and a kickoff. He screwed up a kickoff in 3 games. You say he's done some really good things for us, but then in the same breath, you say he had a real rough 7 games, which last time I checked is almost half a freaking season. So what really good things has he done? Like, they need to apply pushback. And I'm stunned that no one has said, Kyle, you dumped Trey Lance after 4 starts, but you're clinging on to Jake Moody like grim death here. How? What? Explain it.
Look, I see kickers come up. Every year there's a new kicker I haven't ever heard of that has a pretty good year. So
Right.
I want to go out on the limb and give the first thing of maybe they looked all around and they couldn't find anything available, so they wanted to swing the bat at this again. But I find that hard to believe. So then
Greg Joseph on the roster.
Right, but we established maybe, Greg Joseph, Jake Moody, that sort of thing.
Jake Moody in the kick. He made more of his kicks than Moody made, though.
Right, okay, but Moody's here, right? The second part of this, Rob, that always confuses me with Moody, and this is more of an operation. I'm not going to pretend I understand what's going on with kicking, but I've seen a lot of kicks in my life. And the one thing that seems to happen with Jake Moody is like I've said this before, 1 in every 5 kicks. That's an anecdotal ratio. I don't know what the actual proportion is, but 1 kick every few times he kicks will go somewhere where it has no chance of going to the destination that it was supposed to go to. It's like Happy Gilmore putting. You don't know where it's going to go. And it's one of those things where I've never seen it from a kicker. Like Robbie Gould missed a lot of kicks in 2019. He missed them short. He hooked them right. He hooked them left. But it wasn't like Robbie Gould had 4 kicks in the season, or, he made 3 kicks on the same day, and then the 4th kick was completely left as if he was aiming somewhere this way, and he kicked it that way. It happens to Jake Moody every time. And if it doesn't happen on a field goal, it happens on a kickoff. And it doesn't happen on a field goal and a kickoff, it happens on an extra point. And that happens in every single game. I think there's some technical glitch in this whole Jake Moody operation, because I've never seen that from an NFL kicker, where consistently there's a kick that sprays somewhere, nothing close to the target. I've seen kickers miss 10 kicks by a little bit. That's kicking. It's mental, right? Sometimes they're just feeling it. Sometimes they're not. That's why I think even if Moody is a bad kicker, quote unquote, like he could be a great kicker somewhere else. It's mental. Like once they get in a groove, they just start kicking good. Once they get out of that groove, they start kicking bad. But this guy, there's no groove to it. He can drill 3 in a row that look great. I mean, the 53-yard field goal and the 59-yard field goal were in the same game. The 53-yard one was left, from he wouldn't have made that from 20.
He almost 26-yarder.
Right. And then the 59-yarder is as good a kick as anybody in the NFL.
He drilled it.
Yeah. So it's like, what are you gonna do with this? But my biggest issue with this, Rob, is they don't have confidence in him. It's so clear. I don't. The way Shanahan even reacted after the kick, it was like, "Oh, let me do this really quick," so I cussed without anybody seeing me.
But they're defending him. They don't need to do any of this, Vish. You don't need to prop up Jake Moody in the hopes that he recovers. There's 1,000 other kickers out there. You could bring them all in. You had another kicker on your roster. You had another guy, and then you had a competition, and the other guy beat Jake Moody, but Jake Moody retains the job. And you said it, and I'm going to say it too. He doesn't know where the ball is going when he kicks it. He doesn't know where it's going. And you can tell because if he misses a kick left, his next kick, you can bet your ass it's going right. He overcorrects and kicks it right. He is like me on the golf course. I'm swinging, but I don't know where it's going. The only thing I know is that it won't be here long.
And the worst part of that, Rob, is he's the worst kind of kicker. Because like you can have a day with like Robbie Gould's one of the greatest kickers ever. Let's go to Chase McCaughlin when he was kicking for the 49ers. You can have a day where McCaughlin is feeling it and he drills everything. You can have a day where McCaughlin missed 2 and you're like, oh yeah, he's not feeling it today. With Moody, he's gonna miss one badly in the same game he makes 3. He's gonna miss one and then come back and make one from 52 because only Kyle Shanahan will go back to him from 52 despite the fact that he missed one from 40 10 minutes ago, okay? So we see that often with Moody. But that happens too much. And the problem with that is you just don't know when that miss is coming. And you are guaranteed to get one. It's guaranteed, whether it's the kickoff going out of bounds, whether it's the extra point, whether it's the field goal itself. One of those is guaranteed to go straight. And the second part to this is, again, I know absolutely nothing about kicking. I don't know anything about the operation. I hate when Jay Feely talks about it on CBS. It's the worst thing ever. The fact that he has to commentate games and give kicking such attention. But they talk so much about how now moving Tabor Pepper out, having Morstead, this whole operation was so much better. He misses kicks the same way he was missing kicks with the quote-unquote bad operation. I don't see any difference in how the ball looks when he misses a kick. The same way it doesn't look like, oh, now he's missing by a little bit. No, he's still missing where 53 looks like it wouldn't have been good from 30. That's a problem, Rob. He's still missing off the tee where he, like you said, he's kicking it to the policeman. That was a great line. Like, I don't understand the operation, but I see 2 things. They don't have confidence in him, and he doesn't have confidence in him, and there seems to be a problem where you don't know where it's going at one point. How are we in this situation still?
Imagine if you got into a car with somebody and he's like, I don't know where it's going. I don't know how to steer this thing. I know I can drive fast, but I have no idea where it's going to go. Not only are the 49ers choosing to get in the car, other people are telling the 49ers, you really shouldn't get in a car with this guy behind the wheel. And they're like, no, it's fine. I know you can drive and you can drive and you can drive, but no, we're going to let him drive. And there's only one way this is going to end, and it's going to be wrapped around a telephone pole. And it's going to be the stupidest thing ever, Vish, because what's going to happen? He's going to go out against Seattle or maybe against New Orleans, and they're going to lose a game because he misses kicks, and then they're going to cut him. And it's just going to cost them a game. It's the dumbest thing ever. Like, why does he have to miss another kick for you to be like, oh, now we can't tolerate this anymore? And they sit there and talk about the standard. You can't blather on about that garbage when Jake Moody is sitting there not living up to the standard every single week.
And being in a kicking carousel during the season is like such an unnecessary variable for your team to have. Like, oh crap, like we're dealing with figuring our offense out, we're dealing with figuring our defense out, and oh, we don't know if we can kick the ball anytime we're from the 30 and in because, hey, yeah, there's something that could happen. That's the part that's confusing. And look, they could have solved it this offseason. I wonder if maybe Jed said, you can't pay for a kicker. You spent a 3rd-round pick on a kicker. I won't go pay guaranteed money for a kicker now. And that is what created this situation. Maybe. But I would have drafted a kicker shooting the 6th round then. Add somebody you're gonna put a real competition in, because this wasn't even a real competition with Greg Joseph.
Right. And this comment, I want to answer this because I brought this up on KTVU the day after the game. Gary says, how about this? If they replace Moody and the guy who replaces him is worse, then what? Is everybody going to be happy then?
No,
yes.
that
Here's the thing with kickers, Gary. Kickers are like dating, okay? It's better to give 20 people a chance than it is to give the wrong person 20 chances. And the 49ers are giving Jake Moody 20 chances when they should just shuffle a guy out. And if they sign somebody else and he sucks, you know what you do? You cut them too. But you don't stick with the guy that you know sucks. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I don't like this point at all because it isn't cutting Moody isn't about the next kicker being better in this situation because they don't have the guaranteed next option, right? We don't really have an idea of who that next guy is. Cutting Moody is about Moody being bad. Moody is one of the worst kickers in the NFL last year. That's what this is about. It's not about, oh, the next guy is going to come in and solve your kicking problems. There's a good chance the next guy isn't Robbie Gould. But this guy isn't Robbie Gould either. We already know that.
Right. We know. Just come on. I swear.
And is it the ankle, Rob? Because he's missing kicks the same way he did when the ankle was hurt.
No, it's not the ankle. He's just not good. Like Occam's razor. I was just explaining Occam's razor to my 10-year-old son. Oftentimes, the simplest explanation is the correct one. He's just not good. It's not a mystery. It's not a secret. It's not some sort of, unknowable thing. They drafted a kicker who's not that good. So I don't want to spend any more time on this, Vish, because I just saw some fascinating quotes from Brock Purdy to Albert Breer. Thank you to Coach Yak. I'm going to read these. This is interesting. Brock Purdy about trying to do too much last season. Quote, I would say I was frustrated about losing the Super Bowl, and it was like, all right, we got to get back. That's all I saw was getting back. And because some of those guys are out, I have to go make plays to get us back. And for me, I was losing sight of, bro, keep every play as simple as possible and don't complicate it. And you will get back if you do your job the right way every single drive for 4 quarters and you win the game. At times, I lost sight of that. I was trying to do too much, end quote. Now, there's more. We'll get to the more. But since that was long, what do you make of that first part, Vish?
I think we saw that, right? I think what's missed in Brock Purdy's season last year is September was probably the best version of Brock Purdy we had ever seen. Like Brock Purdy was carrying this offense. Brock Purdy was making plays. Brock Purdy was throwing the ball down the field. Brock Purdy was making big time throw after big time throw, and he was lighting it up. And it felt like, oh, has Brock Purdy taken another step? And then after that, it felt like he was trying to be the player he was in September, and the game wasn't materializing for him to be the player he was in September. And I think that's what these comments are saying. He realized, like, there are moments when Brock Purdy showed in September, there are moments where he can be the guy that carries the offense. But he doesn't have to try and default to be that guy all the time because the offense has the opportunity to carry him at certain points. And if he's able to balance both of those, because there will be moments. Sean Payton, the year he was out of football in the herd, used to always say this about your quarterback, right? There's going to be 5 times in the game where Superman has to put on the cape. Like, if you play an NFL game, you need your quarterback 5 times in that game on 3rd and 8, on the road, make the throw. Stand in there, make the throw. 3rd and 7, stand in there, make the throw. What you want to do as a coach, as a defense, is make it only those 5 times that he has to put on the cape. Even if you have Drew Brees, you don't want him to put on the cape 20 times in the game because that's not fair to anybody. Maybe Mahomes can do that, but that's just Mahomes. And the 49ers do an amazing job of that. And Brock Purdy has proven he can put on the cape for 5 times. And this quote to me means that that's what he's looking to do. And he's trying to be mentally cognizant of being that player consistently with that headspace through the season.
I agree with you. I also put a little bit of blame on Kyle Shanahan. Like, Kyle, you have to drill into the team, especially your quarterback, the leader of the team, the leader of your offense, that it's not about getting back to the Super Bowl, that it's about one game. It's about this practice. It's about this game. It's about this week. The mindset that they have this year. Now, Kyle even admitted that all he could think about last year was getting back to the Super Bowl. That was the wrong mindset for this team. Bill Belichick always says, you're not defending a Super Bowl title. It's a new season. You're trying to win the next one. And the only way to do that is to focus on it one game at a time. And they clearly had the wrong mindset last season. Now, let's read the rest of the quote. We're going to read this together because I haven't read this yet. Quote, this was literally our second day back in the spring of 2025, and multiple times I watched film with Mick Lombardi. I watched it with Clay Kubiak. Kyle and I talked about it, which was really good, because then going into OTAs, I was like, bro, let's get back to the fundamentals and just hammer away at it. And when I left for the summer, I did the same thing. come back in camp, still working on it. It was good stuff. I felt this pressure on myself that I need to be Superman type guy and go out and make plays off schedule. There were some moments when I was like, dude, you've got to go back to the basics. It doesn't matter who's out there. The way Kyle calls plays, you run it right, just like your rookie year, and it works. Stick to that and be consistent. Don't go searching because Christian is out of this game and you think you have to go and replace him. Really honest stuff from Brock Purdy. I love it.
Too honest almost, but yeah.
I mean, the third paragraph is exactly what you said after the first paragraph. It was literally you both used the word super.
I know.
Did you read ahead?
I didn't read the quote. I was hoping you would give me that credit, though. My ego was coming off the screen a little bit, like, "Ooh, I did say that, Brock. Me and you said the same thing." Woohoo.
Let's read more of this because it continues with Brock Purdy. Quote, I feel like there's this, they're in a rebuild. And so for me, what excites me is I want to go show everybody we have what it takes to win right now. It doesn't matter. We're going to go build and come together over time and then go put a season together, man, and make a run. And I think we have the team to go and win it all. And I'll say it, but that's what excites me. Now, so I feel like that paragraph kind of contradicts the earlier thing, right? Are you going to just buckle down, get back to your fundamentals and do what you told? Or are you going to go out and try and show people that you can still win the Super Bowl and that you do have a team? Like, which is it, Brock?
No, I think I don't think that's what he's saying. I think that he thinks that there's 53 guys capable of doing their job the same way he's going to do his job for them to come together and win. And I think that's what he's saying. He believes in Russell Gage, that he's going to be in the right spot when Shanahan calls a choice route for him instead of Jauan Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if Russell Gage doesn't work out, someone's going to – I've given that guy so many – I like Russell Gage. So it's that sort of thing that I think he's expressing. And I love the excitement, Brock. I mentioned I disagreed with you earlier in this show, but it's kind of cool to hear him talk like that because he's being really real in the two quotes above. So it feels like it's coming from a very authentic, genuine place. Like, I love what's going on around me. Like, I really do believe in it. And NFL players will believe. That's like the cool thing about them as athletes. Like, they believe in the impossible. You just have to give them a chance to believe. And so maybe this team has a mental door and a mental avenue to them that we haven't really analyzed based on the mental strength of their quarterback and their other stars who may really believe and build a culture to be able to get these young guys to play good really fast.
I was just listening to an interview with Nick Mangold, who used to play center for the New York Jets back in the day. And the
Sanchez is center.
Yeah, and Brandon Tierney was the host on WFAN, and he said, like, what is it like for a team like the Jets who, they don't exactly have Super Bowl aspirations at this time of year? And Mangold said, every year of my career, I thought we were winning the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. Like, I believed we could win a Super Bowl. And that you're right. Like, the NFL players do believe it. You have to. You can't win a Super Bowl if you don't believe that. And clearly Brock has it, and clearly the 49ers have it. Apparently, I'm just reading the last part of this quote. Christian McCaffrey went up to Brock Purdy and said, dude, we all only have a window of time in our career, whether it's 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years of your career. Don't finish your 10-year career and have all these regrets, man. Let's go all out for this window we have in our life to play football for the Niners and go win a championship. And you know where I think part of that comment from Christian McCaffrey comes from? Because he just became a dad, and Brock Purdy just became a dad. And when you become a dad, it changes your perspective on everything. Suddenly you have this perspective of, I am in a window in my life, right? And Christian McCaffrey knows, like, his child is going to grow up, and that's your priorities change and a whole bunch of things. Everything changes when you have kids. And I think that is maybe part of it, at least, is a realization by Christian McCaffrey of where you are in your life and in your career. And that just happened also to Brock Purdy. And I think there's some urgency there. You realize that you don't have an infinite amount of time. You're on borrowed time, especially in the NFL. So I think that's partly where some of that might come from.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. I'm still
right. So
I haven't had a kid yet, but I do hear where you're coming from on that. And it's probably definitely on both of their minds.
That's why I brought it up, because you can't disagree with me. So I'm automatically right.
You would have been automatically right regardless, Rob. You make too many good points. You know you.
I can't do this with Levin. He could challenge me on that. But when Bish is here, I could just say whatever I want about becoming a. When you become a dad, you get superpowers. Yeah, sure. What the hell do you know? You don't have any
Yo,
kids.
you can maybe Purdy can put on the cape 20 times a game now.
It's really interesting stuff from Brock Purdy. That's encouraging stuff. I think we'll see how he actually plays, though, right? I do think that there are times throughout Brock's career, and maybe this is just the fact that he's a young quarterback, he gets influenced by outside stuff. Remember the Christmas Eve game against the Ravens, or Christmas Day, whatever it was, where they are carving up the Ravens defense on that first drive. And Brock just forces a ball in the end zone and it gets intercepted. And after the game, he said, well, we were feeling the crowd. We were feeling the emotion. I really thought we needed to make a big play. I really wanted to make a big play, and I forced it in there. Like that is a young quarterback's mistake, I feel like. And I feel like he still gets kind of caught up in some of that outside stuff. Like he talked about the expectations last year. Maybe this is part of his maturation process.
So I actually have a slightly different take in that. I think that's kind of like the best parts of who he is, but also kind of the worst of it. And we saw it manifest last year at the end of the games. He's really passionate. Like he really cares. That's where all this inject in your veins and all this comes from. Like he's on that field seeing red. Like he's passionate. He wants to freaking win. And I think that manifests itself sometimes in the best ways where it pumps up his teammates and it leads to these plays that look like maybe a guy of his stature, his physical attributes shouldn't make that play. And he makes it just because he's competing his butt off in that moment. But it also at the end of games manifests in we're down and I force something as a fourth quarter interception because I'm feeling the passion. I really want to make a play and we're down. And that's kind of how I play. And so I saw a lot of that at Iowa State from him. Like that's kind of who he is, and I feel like that's a part of who he is as a quarterback. And like for example, Brady, right? You want to take the ultimate example of this. Brady, I feel like was emotional while being totally detached from the emotion of the game. So he was like so competitive, but he played quarterback the same way every single play. And it was like the most unique thing of consistency. Every play, Brady would play that snap the same way to play quarterback. And that was his unique trait. I don't know that it takes away from Brock Purdy because I don't know that this is a bad thing because, like I mentioned, there's a lot of good that comes from this passion, but I think that's who he is. But I also had a second point to this, and if you want to go first, stop.
Well, I just want to interject because I agree
Yeah.
with what you're saying about Brock's passion, and it goes back to what you were saying about putting on the Superman cape. He thinks he has a Superman cape to put on, which I like, because in those moments you need a guy with the moxie to try. Like not every quarterback has that. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have that in him. Alex Smith didn't have that in him. And I don't mean that to knock those guys. I'm just saying it's a mindset. And Brock has it, and I love it.
Take the backup, right? Like I think Mac Jones had a good preseason, but to me, Mac Jones showed he's a backup quarterback in the NFL because there's a little bit of fearfulness to Mac Jones. There's just a little bit of hesitation before cutting it loose, and it has nothing to do with Mac Jones, his technical of how he plays quarterback, other than he might slightly lack athleticism, though he's fairly pocket mobile. Like he does move pretty nimbly in the pocket. But the difference between Mac Jones and Brock Purdy, it's why one guy looks clearly like the starter and one guy looks clearly like the backup, is Brock Purdy plays with the fearlessness. He plays with the moxie. He plays with an aggression. I can go get this. Whereas Mac Jones plays with us. He's scared. He looks tentative when he's playing relative to Brock Purdy. And you can see, I feel like it's been very clear this offseason. One guy's a starter, one guy's a backup. And physically, I don't know that there's that much difference in how they throw it. And Mac Jones is pretty accurate, those sorts of things. But to me, the second point of this, Rob, is I love this quote from him because I feel like this whole quote, this whole mindset is why he works with Shanahan. The fact that he's able to take that away from the season and then his season mindset, so he's able to internalize and mentally process all the ways he needs to improve. But then he's able to be simple enough where he's looking at this season with Jimmy Garoppolo, we can do this, that sort of positivity. I think that mental complexity and balance is what it takes to be the quarterback for Shanahan. And I think it's almost a volatile personality combination where like rarely anyone has it because you have to have the overthink and the self-criticalness and all of these things to look at every flaw, be able to look deep within yourself, say you made these mistakes, all of these things, but then also set it all aside and be like, I'm going to be, dumb football player ready for the next play. Like, I'm just there. I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to overthink anything. And Garoppolo had the latter. They drafted Trey Lance because they felt like he was this overanalyzer, but he was a total overthinker. It showed on the field. It felt like the criticism got to him, all of these things. And it feels like Purdy balances both, where he overthinks enough to improve, but also on the field, he just goes and plays off of instinct. He's not thinking on the field. And I think it's a very unique confidence. It's a very unique personality to have. And I think it's the only one that can work with the way Kyle Shanahan seems to handle his quarterback.
And I think that the best quarterback coach combinations are ones where the personalities happen to mesh. We saw it with the Patriots and Tom Brady. Bill Belichick was I'm going to call out my star quarterback coach every time coach. And Brady thrived on that for years. It fueled Brady. It didn't make him, go into a shell or anything. It made him better. Now, eventually he got sick of it, I do think, but that was after many years and many, many championships. And that's totally
You think
yeah.
he got sick of it? I've been listening to a lot of the interviews from him. I
Don't
think he
listen to
more
interviews now.
I feel like he more comes across like he's salty that they let him go than he's sick of it. Like I feel like he's more pissed that Belichick wanted to do it with someone else. Like I feel like he wanted to stay with New England, and their conflict essentially created all this. Because I feel like when he talks about Tampa Bay, it comes across like he's a lot more. He's like, damn, Belichick was detailed. Like, damn, he ran practice. Like, I had to make these guys be so on their P's and Q's. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I need to do this for you. Belichick took care of all that.
Well, he probably did learn. But no, don't listen to him
You
now.
don't think so?
There's a lot of him. He's definitely turned into a little bit of like one of the old heads football people. Like he wanted stuff his way. He wanted Alex Guerrero to be able to get in there in New England.
That's true.
He wanted all that. It was just time for it to end. I didn't mean to get into a whole thing. But my point was their personalities meshed and worked in a good way. And I do think you need a certain type of quarterback personality to be able to sustain working with Kyle Shanahan for year after year. It seems like Brock has it. It's funny. He says I was trying to do too much. Like I wonder if he's like prettying it up. Because part of me thinks they just got in those film sessions and Kyle looked at Brock and was like, dude, just throw it to the bleeping curl or just hit the hitch route or throw it to the slam. What are you doing throwing it down the field,
Yeah, and I agree because I feel like Shanahan's personality is like, oh, I might just randomly turn on you and cuss you out in this moment because you deserve to be cussed out. But then 2 minutes later, I'm gonna be like, "Yo, what's up, dude? Like,
Yep.
how's it going?" As if that never happened. I expect you to immediately turn that off, not even remember that I cussed you off, and be like, "Yeah, Kyle, what's up, dude? How's it going, man? You gonna invite me to Cabo this year? Nah, bro, you don't golf good enough." So I feel like that balance, like mentally as human beings now, NFL players are unique, right? In the sense that they deal with far more criticism, highs, lows. Like they have to deal with their emotions in a much different way from the average human being. But I think for any human being, it can be very hard to, oh, this guy just went totally at me for doing my job. And now 2 seconds later, he's like, yo, he's joking with me. And I gotta be like, ha ha ha, that's all cool. It's really hard to strike that balance. And then when you add the egos of it, where Brock is, a $200 million guaranteed quarterback, Kyle's at the top of his profession, at his coach, all these things, they have all these conflicting things. It's a very unique personality, like you said. And I think based on what we've seen off of Kyle, this is the only one that works. I think there's other quarterback personalities, Rob, and there's a lot of other star quarterbacks with other quarterback personalities. I don't think those other quarterback personalities work. Like, I don't think you can do that with Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan is not going to address you after, like, dude, you just cussed me out. Now you're going to say we're going to be, yo, dude. And that's why they had to address how they talk to each other in their relationship. I think with Brock, Kyle just gets to be Kyle, and Brock's personality is able to adjust and digest and be able to handle both parts of it. Like we can be cool in all of it, but I'm also still going to take your hard coaching to heart, but not let it devastate me because he can devastate a quarterback.
He definitely can. I remember asking Trey Lance about that. Like, I think I said, like, have you tasted the wrath of Kyle Shanahan? And he kind of laughed and was like, no, not really. But you kind of felt a little bit like, yeah, maybe he has a little, because he laughed like, yeah, because he saw the truth in what I said. I felt like, and maybe that's just me, putting my whole interpretation on the thing. But yeah, Kyle he's not easy to work with. And I imagine he's not easy to play for too. But he's also really good at what he does. So he gets that sort of grace, let's say. And we'll see how.
Yeah, it's the rare thing, right? Like he's the rare guy that's gotten to go through life being that crazy control freak and not having to fix it because he's good at that thing. So, people who are good at that thing sometimes are also those crazy control freaks. I'm sure we all work with somebody in some capacity who's excellent at something, but we have to wade around their personalities. But that's okay. They get to be that way personally because they're so excellent at that thing.
You ever watch that show House that was on back in the day?
No, Rob.
It was an old show with Hugh Laurie.
I do remember I remember the ads for it. There used to be commercials between football games for it all the time.
Every episode, it was like, somebody's sick or they have this crazy disease and no one in the world can solve it. And House is like, I'll do it. Let me just stick a straw in their neck and pump them full of, poison and that'll cure them. And everyone's like, you can't do that. That's crazy. And then he does it anyway. And all of a sudden the person's walking by the end of the episode. It was every week, but it was a very enjoyable show. But that's kind of Kyle Shanahan. It was like, all right, we'll let you operate on this patient in this crazy way because you end up saving lives. But if you ever stop saving lives and these patients keep dying, you're going to be out of here pretty quick.
Oh, totally. Like, I think Shanahan's exit, whenever it would come from the 49ers, unless it's him exiting on his own terms, like, there will be some dirt. Oh, Shanahan was a total annoying person to work with. Oh, Shanahan, he was a total control freak. He did that. Like, Jed's going to do that on the way out for sure, despite the fact that, this is the longest tenured coach he's ever had. This is all these, like, positive things. If Shanahan doesn't walk out on his own terms, we will hear, we can't handle it anymore. He was pushy. He did this. He made me win.
He made me spend money. I didn't like that at all. Oh, boy. Well, hopefully we're not talking about the end of Kyle Shanahan's tenure soon because hopefully that means things are going well for the 49ers. And we will see if they do this year. Vish, love having you back on the show. I love that your apartment was not being, fumigated and you could actually join us unlike last week. We missed you.
Yeah, that was very poor timing. I will say, my one anticipation for this show was that we would talk about Trey Lance, and he had 2 drives that were nothing to really talk about, and Shanahan didn't meet him after the game, and that was that. No talk about him. More talk about Jake Moody.
Shanahan said I wanted to see him. I couldn't find him. I don't have any proof of this, but I would imagine he probably didn't look too hard to find Trey Lance after that. Maybe he did. I shouldn't say that. Maybe he did, but in my head, he didn't anyway. My head canon is that Kyle was like, I don't need to talk to this guy anymore. But who knows? But
I think he was more worried about the Jake Moody questions.
Like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're here every Monday. Usually we'll go drive through the game that was and break down everything that happened. We're not doing that with preseason game 3 because half those guys aren't even on the team anymore, including the 2 quarterbacks that played in the game. So,
oh my God, never again. Hey, if Rob, if there's one thing we deserve better as fans, that we did not deserve to see. Carter Bradley, Gus, you know what I think this is? All right. Aluminum foil hat, like end of the show. This is our like PSA. Like if you really are a deep viewer of Rob and Vish, you're gonna watch this sort of thing. I think that's how like they're making Gus Bradley not take a defensive coordinator job and hang around and be their defensive coordinator and waiting for Robert Saleh, because Carter Bradley doesn't belong in the NFL. I've seen him make one good throw in 3 games, and he dotted up Robbie Chosen. And if Tim Ryan tells me about how strong his arm is one more time.
They got a lot of those guys with, a lot of power, but they don't know where the ball is going after it exits the, I don't know, swing or throw or whatever. But anyway, that's over with. He's gone. Brock and Mac are going to be your guys. That's another way, by the way, they're going to sneak somebody into the 53 is by only keeping 2 quarterbacks. But
we got to hope Rourke's something because they need a third developmental something going on at their quarterback room behind Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and they needed that emergency guy too. But Jason and Steph will be live right at the deadline for the roster cuts tomorrow with their instant reaction. So we'll break that all down. Vish, thanks again. I will see you next week, my friend.